Welcome to the Instinctive Influencers Podcast, a show where influence becomes one of your tools for success. Now, here are your hosts, Brian Weber and Ed Haley.
Hi, I'm Brian.
And I am Ed.
And this is the Instinctive Influencers Podcast. Ed, what's going on, brother?
Another week, Brian. It's good. We're consistent. There's like 3 weeks in a row, right?
I think we're on a roll again. Maybe we got to. Maybe we should start. Yeah, you're right. I better not now.
Well, next weekend, a long weekend. So
you have a long weekend next weekend?
Yeah, hey, here in Europe, man, they make sure you get at least 1 3-day a week. I mean, a month. And before they made Juneteenth a federal holiday, we didn't have one in June. So I had the 3-day for Juneteenth. I have a 4-day next weekend, and then a 4-day for the 4th of July. So I have a 3-day work week next week.
Oh my goodness! Right now I'm jealous of you. That's okay though. I mean, it's not like I'm working anyways. They don't have me doing anything.
Yeah. See.
So, yeah. Hey, I saw you went to Five Guys.
Yes. Yeah. And it was super random.
Well, like you guys just decided, hey, let's go here.
I literally woke up from a nap and said, hey, let's go to Five Guys. And
is it as good?
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They do the whole thing. Like you've been to the one there, right?
Well, I have, but I've only had their fries because I can't eat meat. So,
you should just give it a try. No,
whatever, man. You know better.
They do the same thing here, like where they tell you where the potatoes. Like we didn't look yesterday, but it might be like, today's potatoes are from the Netherlands, or So they do the same thing. Yeah, it's the same franchise, and so I only knew there was one until yesterday. And my wife's like, well, which one you want to go to? Because there's one in Frankfurt, Germany, Mannheim, and Heidelberg. And Heidelberg has like one of the most scenic areas. I love Heidelberg. There's a beautiful castle there. So I was like, well, let's just go to Heidelberg. It's like an hour and 15 minutes, I think, to go to Five Guys.
Nice.
Yeah, but then we went shopping. I got a couple little shirts for vacation. So
hey, I sent you a picture of that Lego Batman thing. Did you get that? It was the head, the bust.
Yeah, it's en route.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm kind of jealous. It's like I have one of Grogu and from Star Wars, The Mandalorian. I'm sorry, my brain wasn't working. Yeah. Late. I was up late last night. Anyways, but I got that one. I was like, man, I really want to get that. And then we were sitting there and I saw they have one that's like this big of, Baby Yoda, Grogu, whatever you want. And I was like, man, I totally want to get that, but I got to find time. So, and people are probably, go ahead.
You still have children, man. So it's easier to go buy some Lego when you don't have kids in the house. I have adults. So, I mean, my wife has the Stormtrooper. She just ordered Vader and she just ordered the Biker Scout helmets. And then I have Venom, Batman, and I think that's it. But I do want Iron Man. He's on the list.
No, it is not easier. You know why? Because you go to the store, you go to look for a Lego set, and instead you're like, I want this. And then your kid's pointing down to Lego Friends or Lego Minecraft, and that's what they want. And you're like, I got to buy that instead. No, it's not.
You should see Tammy and I in the Lego store feeling up the minifigure packages to try to figure out which ones we need for our collection.
When people start staring, just say it's for my kids, and they don't have to know. No,
I just call the kid's name. Stevie, come here. Look at this.
Yeah. So people are probably sitting there, right, and they're watching us on YouTube because we're on YouTube now, and they're like, who's that sitting beside Brian? It's our lighting guy. We brought him in. He's our lighting technician. No, I'm just joking. No, thank you. The lights are on? Okay. Yeah. Are your lights on? Okay. No. So actually what we're doing is we're doing an interview today, Ed. This guy that I've known for about a year, actually almost a year, but it feels like Michelle and I were talking. It's like their family and our family, we're getting pretty close, and it feels like we've known him forever. But he just recently ritired, and
nice
retired right up there at Fort Carson because he was literally our houses were attached. So I beat on the wall every once in a while to make sure he was alive. Everything was going. But this is Sergeant Major retired, Thomas Bramer. And we're going to go over some things about him. But before we do that, we can't even let him talk until he answers our questions, Ed. And I told him we do this instinctive response thing. So you want to fire off your first question to him so people get to know him?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Let's start fast and furious. Describe yourself as a teenager in 3 words.
He said Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
I was out of control.
Out of control.
Out of control. That was 3 words.
It is 3 words.
That was good. Yeah. All right.
I'll accept it.
Okay.
All right. Here's mine. Name a time that you wanted to quit but didn't.
Goodness. A time I wanted to quit, but I didn't. I think pursuing higher education. It was very challenging for me, and having the ability to pursue higher education and finish and get my degree. It was a challenge.
Could you testify to that, Ed? Because I know I can.
Yeah, and I'm a king of procrastination too, so that makes it even worse. But it is a challenge.
Heck yeah! All right, Ed, what you got, man?
Let's see here. I love books, Brian. So, name a book you have read that positively shaped you.
Okay. Let's see. A good one. I would think General Patton, Principles of Life and Leadership.
I think I have that.
I know I have it. It's probably right here.
No. So Ed is, and it's probably not down there.
Is it?
No, it's not down there.
No,
it's in my room on my desk because I know exactly what you're talking about. Ed is a huge Patton. His dog's name is Patton. Like,
really?
Who did you meet last year, Ed, or the year before? Who was it?
At a sustainment ball. I met his granddaughter 2 years ago.
My goodness.
Yep. Yeah, she's there in Germany, right?
Yeah, well, she's the curator for the 101st Museum in Belgium at Bastogne.
Yeah, that's his granddaughter's there. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Patton. We're going to do a show completely about Patton. We haven't done it yet. We're trying to plan it, but Ed, as soon as you said something about Patton, I guarantee he got all tingly inside. He's like, ooh, Patton, So
the funny thing is, Brian, so the last 2 things we talked about, right? Education and then now Patton. And my paper to finish my bachelor was examining the leadership philosophy of Patton, Rommel, and Montgomery.
Yeah. Actually, I want you to send that to me so I can read it.
I'd like to read that.
Yeah. So, all right, that was a good question. Hey, who would play you in a movie in your real life? Basically, a movie about your real life. Who would play you in a movie?
Oh my goodness, an actor?
Just any actor.
Really not good with actors. Tom Hanks.
I thought Ed Harris, but
and I'll show I don't know who Ed Harris is. That?
I'll show you Ed Harris later.
Is that the guy that played on
The Rock?
What movie is it?
He was in The Rock.
He was the bad guy. Yeah, the bad guy in The Rock against Nicolas Cage.
I can see Ed Harris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ed Harris. Is he from Married with Children?
No. That's Al Bundy. Ed O'Neill.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm horrible with actors.
I usually am too, but you just hit me on one of my favorite shows. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go off the beaten path, Brian, and I'm going to draw on his lengthy military experience and ask him what was his favorite duty station and why.
I had a blast in Germany. So Germany was my first duty station. That's not necessarily the reason why it's my favorite. There were many reasons. So I love history, and going and learning culture and just, Germany's landlocked. I believe there's 9 countries that border it. Having the ability to travel and learn the different cultures while I was there, I was able to I met my spouse in Germany and learned how to speak the German language. And then just there was a camaraderie that I built with it being my first duty station. That's what set the foundation for who I became as a leader throughout the military. I had great leaders at that first duty station that pointed me in the right direction, and it was very humbling experience. And yeah, I love that place.
Well, I know Ed does too, and he doesn't want to leave.
I will never leave unless they make me. But Brian, I just want you to know that the 12th cab wants you.
Oh yeah, do they?
Yeah, they need you.
I will be there in a heartbeat. I got to finish this little thing I got going on here, though.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, so I'm a huge superheroes fan, and I know you've been watching this new show Manifest, and you kind of got into it pretty good on Netflix. So the question is, it's kind of connected to that. Is if you had one superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, so I don't know if this, I kind of like, I don't know if you consider time travel a superpower.
I think so.
But I'm a history guy, and going back and having the ability to travel back and live in the past would be something that would be interesting to me.
I think it's a superpower. Yeah, just be careful where you land. Yeah. I love Germany. Don't go to the wrong years. Okay?
Oh,
yeah. Be careful there. What you got, Ed?
Man, I got so caught up in his answer to the last one. Okay, influential childhood memory.
Ooh. I would say, and this is kind of off the wall, Pete Rose hit his 4,192.
Oh, what's going on with the camera here? There we go.
Yeah, we got it fixed.
All right, no, we're good. All right.
I'm a sports buff guy, I like sports. So I think, Pete Rose, I'm from Cincinnati. He's like
He's trying to answer my next question, and I don't need it yet. So Pete Rose hitting what now?
He hit. So he's the hit champion, basically.
Oh yeah.
So being able to live in the city where he hit his 4,192nd hit, I believe was the record. But to he was a childhood hero, and the entire city. That's what we talked about for years.
Okay.
For years, and I mean, we still talk about it because there's some say he should be in the Hall of Fame.
No, he should be. I'm not going to disagree there. And so I'm pretty sure he just answered my next question. So really, the only answer I want to hear from this is Tom Brady. So your favorite athlete.
Oh my goodness, my favorite athlete.
Anybody but.
No, you know better, Ed.
Icky Woods. No.
So I like Icky, and the thing is, I'm like, wow. I could go so many places with this.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the sport. It depends. Like, there's lots of things. Like, I have athletes across different sports, and I'm like, you can't compare them. But yeah, I mean, I still go to Tom Brady every time. So.
Well, the thing is, I don't know what the thing is. The thing is it's not Tom Brady. That's what I know.
So he's killing me, bro.
I like him every time he answers a question.
Each. Yeah, it seems like it. So we each have one more question, Ed.
Not Tom Brady.
Yeah, see? He says his favorite athlete, anybody but Tom.
There you go.
Yeah.
He went to Michigan.
I can't even believe I'm friends with this guy. No. Anyways. What you got, brother?
Most influential band.
I will tell you, don't ever make a bet with him and say you don't have that CD. This dude will run it. So there we are. I'm not gonna say what the bet was, but anyways, it was so he says, "Oh, I got that CD." We were at our buddy Omar's house. Omar's probably gonna listen to this because he's a good friend of ours. And he says, yeah, I got his CD. And I said, no, you don't. I bet, blah, blah, blah. Sure enough, dude runs to his house, runs back, and he brings me the All Eyes on Me Tupac CD. That's what it was. And I was like, no, he does not have this. He had this CD, Ed. So, anyways, your question was...
I forgot the question already.
Yeah. Most influential band, but we got lots of stories to tell.
Influential means it had an impact on me.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. I listen to so much different music and genres, and I grew up listening to the Beastie Boys. So
we just listened to them the other night.
We did, because for me, that 1986.
Yeah,
that's when I started getting into music, and I wouldn't say it was influential, but it's kind of like the foundation of where I started off at. So.
I don't know what's going on with this camera.
I don't know what's going on.
Crazy. You can still hear us though, right, Ed? Yeah, we
can hear you.
See, I don't know. It keeps switching on. Maybe we'll have to switch things up. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so last question for this part of it, and then we'll jump into we'll just talk a little bit.
Okay.
If you could have any 3 people, dead or alive, over for dinner, who would those 3 people be?
Okay. Any 3 people. So I think we talked about Patton earlier. I would love to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I lost my brother recently. I would definitely like to have him over for a dinner. It's just one of those things. And then maybe on the influential presidents like JFK or FDR.
Yeah.
Just,
kind of see what was on their brains at the time.
See what was on their brains, the decisions they had to make, what they were going through, what our country is going through during those times. Very challenging.
Yeah.
And all the tough decisions that they're faced with. And that would just be a great opportunity to sit at the table with them and pick their brain.
Yeah. We've had different answers over the time. It seems like there's not, I think you said Patton in yours when we did it to each other.
Yeah.
However, I think that, we've had a numerous amount of names that have come up for that question. And I always enjoy that one, because it makes you wonder, what would the conversation, how would it go? Or would it just turn into just a few people just sitting around having a good time, So, all right. So that was Instinctive Response. That's the segment where we try to get to know somebody before we actually get to know them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through his bio here. I have it on my phone there for you, though you do. I'm going to go through the brief highlights that are listening. That way, because we're actually going to talk about different things with it. So Sergeant Major Thomas Bramer was born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1978, which means he's older than me, but still younger than you, Ed. So there's that.
Still young. Yeah, thanks, Brian.
He listed in the United States. Yeah, really good friends. Who needs enemies when you have me, right?
Yeah.
He enlisted in the United States Army in August of 1996, attended basic training and advanced individual training at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. You ever been there, Ed? You ever been to Fort Sill?
I've spent some time there. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
For basic and AIT.
We'll get into that later.
Same as me. Oh, shit.
Yeah, excellent. All right, so his military education includes the Primary Leadership Development course, which that would have been something that we would have done back in the day, Ed, the PLDC, which we've talked about, a leadership course. It's very similar to that. Yeah, it's BLC now, so they changed that over the years. Also, Combat Lifesaver course, Master Driver course, Advanced Leadership course, which is ALC, Unit Movement Officers course, Senior Leaders course, Observer Controller Academy, Master Resilience Trainer, Battle Staff, First Sergeant Pre-Command course. Man, I hate those ones. The United States Army Sergeant Major's Academy. And that's those are just the courses in general. And then civilian education, his associate's degree in applied science and management studies from Excelsior College in Albany, New York. I'm not going to go through everywhere he's been, but he's been to a lot of places. Ed, before we get started, you mentioned some stuff. Did you want to bring that up again to the listeners about like where he's been and stuff?
Well, I mean, we've been in some of the same kind of footprints. What did I ask him? You gotta remind me, Brian. I did.
I don't. I think you asked him if he was. No, you said something about. This was before we started recording about him being at Drum when you were there, or something like that, or not Drum.
No, so
because you were Field Artillery.
He went at Drum, but but the unit that I was in and the unit that I went to Haiti with were both at Drum, but then they deactivated. And so when I guess maybe he was in 1-7 Field Artillery, which would have meant that they restood them back up. I was in 2-7, deployed with 1-7. Then they became 215 and 115, I think, at Drum. So they probably reactivated them. So same lineage, different location.
Got you. Okay, I think that makes sense.
Right.
Let's just back things up. We're gonna back things up, and we'll look at. So you're born in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? You spent your whole life there until you joined?
I did. So born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. Did a little bit of traveling towards Tennessee. My father's family is from Tennessee, so
really, where at?
Speedwell, Tennessee. It's up in it's to the eastern side of the Smoky Mountains over there, the Cumberland Gap area.
I know where the Cumberland Gap is. Yeah. No, so I grew up in East Tennessee. So for a few years. Okay, it makes sense. So you basically grew up in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. So there's a dish that's popular for the Cincinnati area. What's that called?
So there's a couple, but I think the big one we're known for is our chili.
And I think spaghetti.
So you have chili spaghetti. You have Skyline.
Skyline, that's the one. Yeah. Have you ever had Skyline chili, Ed?
No, but I'm interested.
No, okay, no, yeah.
So there's 3 separate ones, and they all have their own recipe, but they're all from Cincinnati. One Cincinnati recipe, one's called Gold Star, and one is called Skyline, and you can eat them a variety of different ways. You could a lot of Cincinnatians choose to create what's called a 5-way. So it's total 5 toppings. You've got your spaghetti, you've got your chili, you got your cheese, you got onions and crackers. Maybe I think is the 5th piece of it's beans. It's beans. So you just add some hot sauce and crackers for a little extra oomph.
So there'll be 7 ways.
I mean, if you added the cracker and the hot sauce, but so that's popular food in the area. Yeah, there's some others.
I like bringing up food because we're like Ed and I are both foodies, and obviously, Ed, I will tell you after yesterday, I'm going to be very cautious of where I eat because this guy takes me to a Mexican restaurant, and we get this plate comes out. Ed, I'm not joking. It's like it's this big and it's huge. Food just piled up everywhere. I ate the whole thing, and I probably shouldn't have. My stomach was hurting. And then they had this. So I had a chili relleno on it, and then an enchilada on it. And the enchilada, the guy says, "You want the mild or the spicy the hot stuff on it?" I said, "Give me the spicy." No. I'm sitting there, bro. Sweat coming down my face. It was dripping off my nose at one point, and I look over him and he's laughing at me because I'm dying of all this food that we ate. And he said he kept looking at his plate, saying, "I don't know if I get it," and he just kept eating too. It was amazing.
Oh yeah,
great place. What's the name of the joint?
It's called La Posta.
La Posta in Old Mesilla,
New Mexico. Yeah. About an hour north of El Paso and Fort Bliss.
Yeah, beautiful drive out there, man. We go through this area of it was pecan trees, right?
Pecan trees, yeah.
And it covers at one point it covers the road, so you feel like you're going through a tunnel of trees. Beautiful. I can't wait to take my motorcycle over there at some point.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. Hey, did you have any questions for him before I keep asking him stuff, buddy?
No, I don't think so. Let me think. Yeah, no.
Oh,
Yeah, your wife put up some pictures on social media. They look pretty awesome. Yeah, just
I'm gonna have to look because I didn't even know.
A long night.
Yeah,
she probably just posted them.
Yeah. Yeah. You were having a long night when
we were discussing the show last night. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, so because we sat down in the gym or the garage, and I wiped. Yeah, we did a staff meeting. You missed our staff meeting, Ed, and I'm tired of you missing these. Your pay's going to get docked with meetings. Okay. I know. No. So let's fast forward a little bit. So we talked about childhood. We talked about some food in the area. You joined the Army straight out of high school?
I did. So I actually enlisted in the Army Delay Entry Program in October of 1995.
Okay.
So did that, completed high school, and then straight out of high school in August of 96, went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, alone and ready to challenge the world.
Alone and ready. So a lot of people join for different reasons, right? So, like mine, I was trying to get away from the lifestyle I live in or whatever. Ed, I think it was probably the same thing. What kind of was the reason behind it, the original joining?
We'll just echo that, right?
Yeah.
So wanted to face the world, wanted to challenge myself to a different experience, and at the end of the day, so I did decent in high school, but I didn't set goals for, going straight to college out of high school.
Yep.
And I enlisted in the military in 11th grade.
Yeah.
So that was my goal at that time was, all right, I'm going to pursue serving my country. And that was the goal that I wanted to achieve at that time.
Yeah, I didn't think it so much of serving. I was just like, man, I need to find something to do because I decided I'm not going to school. Ed, you got anything, brother?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I think all of us, we wanted to do something. I knew I needed to get out of Maryland, and it was a way out of Maryland. And Fort Sill just offered me that gateway. There's definitely days sleeping in the rain that I questioned that decision.
Oh, yeah. But, and for those of you listening, so previously, Ed has a different job now, but previously he and Tom had the same job before. So there's a connection there, and that's what's kind of cool to know those things. So we'll go a little bit further. You joined, you were basic training. You said your first duty station was Germany.
It was.
How old were you when you first went to Germany?
I was 18.
I could not. Can you imagine showing up there? Like, what you know now, Ed, right?
Yeah.
You know what it's like living in Germany. Can you imagine showing up there like that, at 18 years old?
No, I cannot, because the ability to get in trouble for a single soldier at 18 in Germany is very, very high.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. But it was a humbling experience. So you fly over 5,000 miles to a different country and you to serve the United States.
I couldn't imagine. I mean, my first duty station was at Fort Campbell, so I stayed in the U.S. But then right after that, I went to Korea, and I can understand. I can relate to that. That's good. So you went to Germany. How long was it from the time you joined until you became a sergeant in the Army?
So I became a sergeant in the Army in September of 99. So just under 3 years.
Okay. So, and that sounds about it. That's about the average. It seems like 36 months that you put on this because you went to PLEC and stuff. And were you just thrown right in the mix, put in charge of people?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
And how old would you have been then?
So that would have been 21-ish.
Did you feel like you were ready to be in charge? Like, you were 21 years old, learning how to live your life. You were ready to actually take on that challenge at the time?
When I reflect back and I look at it, probably not. But I seen it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
So by that time, I'd already had 2 operational deployments, one to Bosnia and one to Kosovo. And I was gaining the experience that I thought I needed in order to be a successful leader.
I mean, and it's crazy because Ed, you were a little bit older before you became a non-commissioned officer, correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I got out. So I ETS'd as a specialist promotable, and then I came back in. So I was way older. I was 33 by the time I
33.
Yeah.
So you could definitely say there's a different mentality, though, as a young person, taking on that leadership role, because it's not like those of you listening, like those who if you've been a part of the Army or not, like you're taking on, basically you're in I'm not saying you're controlling the lives of people, because we don't do that, but we're in charge of making sure that they get certain things done, or that we assist them in areas that we may not even have a clue. Yeah. It's like, we got to do that. We got to do research on this, figure this part out, do stuff. So to think of, let's say Ed's life experiences, he's 33, let's say, versus 21. There's a big difference of life experiences there. So it's challenging. And sometimes you think you're doing the right thing and you don't even, you learn from it. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So another unique thing, Brian, with him being a 13 Bravo, right? So he's that young. So not only do you got to think he's got the soldiers, but when we go out to shoot in the field, his level of responsibility is, because he's either the gunner or the assistant gunner if he's on a gun crew. So he's controlling where that round goes. If his section chief doesn't do his job, he can literally hurt somebody at that point as a young 23, 22-year-old sergeant. So on top of his responsibilities to motivate his soldiers to make them better, he's still got his real job mission, to put steel down on the target. So
let's talk about that right there.
Okay.
Your job in itself. I mean, what did it consist of? Like, as a field artilleryman, what was that?
Okay, so you start off as a cannon crew member. That individual is
strong back, right?
Strong back. We got 100-pound rounds. Yeah. Just imagine a small 5.56 round multiplied by about 500, and you've got a projectile that we shoot out of a howitzer.
Yeah. So if we were to say size wise,
it's 155 millimeters.
155 millimeters.
So
I'm not familiar with the metric system, so I kind of suck.
It weighs about 100. So depending on what type of round it is, they can weigh up to 100 pounds.
Yeah.
It looks just like a normal conventional 5.56 round, but on a grander scale.
So at any given time, you have a gunnery, because he mentioned gunnery. Gunnery being, that's where we qualify with our weapon system, a large weapon system. How much of those rounds are you chucking, like, say, per minute or per hour? I mean, would you think, because that's 100 pounds.
It is.
You're picking up 100 pounds. You're tossing it in the weapon system. How many do you think you're doing within a time? Just give like a time frame and how many you would do during that time frame.
So in a minute, you're trying to get about 3 or 4 out of that weapon system in a minute. That is very efficient.
3 or 4. That's 300 or 400 pounds.
Yeah.
For a time of minute. I guarantee you were sweating your butt off.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is continuous cycle.
Yeah.
So our job is to support those, we're in the rear. So we've got our infantry and our other brothers up front, brothers and sisters.
Right.
And we know our job is out there to suppress the enemy so that we can engage the front line. So very important job.
Look at him speak so military, like, I suck at that.
No, we just shape the battlefield.
Shaping the battlefield. Isn't it called the Queen of the Battle, correct?
The King.
King of the Battle, okay.
Yeah, the infantry is the Queen of the Battle.
Oh, no.
See?
So we have a lot of friends. Ed and I have a lot of friends. Would you say, Ed, that in the academy we worked at, it was probably half were 13 series. I mean, we had a lot of 13 and 11.
There were a few 13 series, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our commandant, our assistant commandant, and then we had Wright.
Yeah.
Our buddy Wright. I mean,
Harris,
hopefully,
Muscleman.
Harris.
Yeah, we had a few.
Yep. LaBoy. Yeah. All these great guys. So. And the reason I say it is like they were all, I mean, other than Harris was he was a little thinner, but most of them were big dude, like his key, and I just mentioned this on Facebook the other day. We were at who was it? Was that Sergeant Major Schroeder that said something about, or no, it was one of the sergeant majors that said, "Hey, deadlifts is how you get promoted," and like that's of a whole speech. The entire thing he heard, all he heard was deadlifts get you promoted, and he'd echo it all the time. The guy could deadlift like 500 something pounds. I don't know, 600 pounds.
Yeah, he used to make me sick. Like,
unbelievable. But he's a 13. He's a 13 Bravo, correct?
Yeah. So Harris can be smaller because, like myself, when I was artillery, I was 105 millimeter, much smaller round. So Harris probably came up on the little 105 millimeter.
Yeah. So let's back it up again. We got 3 years in. We're now a non-commissioned officer in charge of people. Mm-hmm. How many years in were you when you finally went to the Sergeant Major's Academy?
At Sergeant Major Academy, I was in 19 years.
19 years. In that 19, so from 3 years in, 19 years, so let's say that's what, 16? I can do math a little bit.
Yep.
16 years, that 16-year span.
Yep.
Were you always in a leadership position?
I did have, I wouldn't call a break.
Right.
I did what's called ACRC. So this is where we train our active duty reserve component soldiers to get mobilized. I did that for 2 years, and I wasn't necessarily in charge of a section or a squad, or a platoon. I was more working in the operations section. So I had a small component of 3 or 4 soldiers that assisted me. I wouldn't necessarily call it a leadership role.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of see that if you have 3 or 4 soldiers that are working with you, I mean, you're still leading, you're mentoring and stuff like that. So, I mean, to me, and that's what, the point of the part is I look at it as like, you're doing this from the time you're 21 until basically all the way up, even until you retire now, where you're constantly leading, mentoring, shaping, and molding people. And the challenge it is, but also like reflecting back, like you say, it's what you learn from it, like what we learn. And Ed and I, we talk about lifelong learning a lot. That's one of our big things that we like to discuss. What are some of the maybe possibly key facts or key areas that you would say, hey, you know what? Through those years, I really learned X, Y, or Z type thing.
Right. So, ever since being an NCO sergeant, until the time of attending the Sergeant Major Academy, I kind of looked for a direction. Let me just go ahead and deep dive. So, deep diving for me. So, what made me is basically I asked myself questions. The questions being, what have I seen? What experience have I had that had an impact on me that I think is important for success? And then how can I achieve that or share that message across the force? Right. So this is where I dig a little bit deeper into my philosophy, my command philosophy. Like, what are my morals? Where did I grow up and what do I think is important to me, and combine that with my experience of what I've seen in the military, and how do I think that combining those together will enable success of that next soldier in line. So my motto being, as an NCO, as a leader, always mentoring down to that junior level and working myself out of a job per se.
And we're going to get more into that. Yeah, the working yourself out of a job thing. I think we've kind of, Ed, do you have anything else you want to ask him about, like say about his history and stuff before we dive into this leadership philosophy piece?
No, I think we're good because, again, like I kind of understand the artillery thing, and kind of where he came from.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, I came in 91, he came in 96. So there's a 5-year difference, but I feel like we came up in kind of the same time in that regiment. So maybe some of our foundation was probably very similar. I mean, in those days, you were still getting like smoked. Like when we say smoked, not 10 push-ups, we're talking about smoked until you could barely stand back up. So there was still stuff today that would be hazing, but we came up being, that's how they dealt with us when we did wrong. Or, I mean, I can tell you, Tom, I was a field soldier. I could do advanced party. I could bring the gun in almost 0 mils every time. But my chief could not wait to get me to the field because I couldn't stay out of trouble in garrison because I like to sleep in the room or a Humvee on the line or in the doghouse where we kept our tools. So, but yeah, I think we came up kind of in the same-ish era.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I dealt with many of those soldiers.
Yeah. No, hey, so I
was that soldier too.
We all were. Yes, we all were. And then we realized, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because like he says that about like that one, we all seen that soldier, and then you'll see down the road, you run into another soldier down the road, the same guy, and you're like, wow, what a difference this guy is. And it's like, because there's something I could have done to help him, or is there something he learned that I could learn? It's always amazing. But one of the key reasons for this interview is, so Tom and I, as we were neighbors, I said I had a whiteboard up in my garage, and we've had multiple like philosophy / leadership talks, a lot of things like that. And we would draw things up on the whiteboard. Actually, he did a lot of drawing. I did a lot of listening. And what I wanted to bring up was because he keeps telling me about like, hey, leadership philosophy, and I have built one over the years, and I have one. I've had one on and it's very similar to the one that you sent me. I didn't print it off. I have it on my phone. But I wanted to dive into the whole leadership philosophy thing, right? And let's talk about developing and then spreading it, and then the influence, through verbal and actions. So right off the bat, what is a leadership philosophy, do you think?
So for me, a leadership philosophy is a foundation as a leader or individual that is mentoring soldiers. It is a foundation that you can use that they can remember, like points to success. Right. So taking and asking myself questions, what's important to me? What experiences have I seen that have made my subordinates or my other leaders successful? Taking that, combining it together, and coming up with something simple that young soldiers can comprehend. That's not, it's going to enable their success down the road. To me, that's a philosophy. It's a overarching. Lost for words right now, but it's
we always do, right?
It's overarching and it just holistically comes together by allowing them to remember what their priorities should be and able to enable their success.
Well, that leads me to the next question, though, is why is it important to have one?
It's important to have a philosophy because it provides you as the leader the ability to mentor that soldier, right? So having a philosophy, nesting a philosophy with your commander, from my perspective, is very important. And it's important so that you guys are not preaching. So you guys are saying the same thing. And you're not sending mixed messages to the soldiers, from day one in the door as a command team, as even as a platoon sergeant with a young platoon leader.
Right.
Getting in there, having conversation with a platoon leader, understanding what his priorities are, understanding what your priorities are, and seeing the commonalities that you have and putting that together.
Right.
To achieve the overarching goal of the commander, by having a philosophy, that will assist you a lot.
I've since being in over the years, I've only found that a couple people, less than a handful for me. I don't know about you, Ed, and you could probably talk on it too. Only a couple people have actually presented such a thing to me where I actually understood where they were coming from. And I guess that leads us into developing in a sense. But like I understood, like, okay, these are the things that are important. You said nesting meaning, hey, we're your philosophy is one, mine's another. We bring it together, and that way we kind of lead the same way. Because I mean, you're a command team. You're not a command individual. That's why they call it the command team. So if we were to say developing it, what was it? What was some of the key aspects that led you to develop your leadership philosophy?
So I've mentioned it a couple times already. A couple of the aspects was my morals. Where did I come from? What was important to me growing up as an individual prior to coming in the military? I think that having that foundation of what's important to me throughout my life and what's ethically right, had a lot to do with that. But then becoming a young sergeant and experiencing what I had learned in that 3-year period and combining that together with my morals and my foundation allowed me to create my philosophy on what I thought was important to myself, and also enable success to the junior soldier.
Absolutely. Ed, you ever developed your own philosophy yet, or anything, or put something down before?
So I kind of have an idea of what mine would be. So I don't know if you remember, Brian, but we had a Sergeant Major when we were together in the aviation, Sergeant Major Mancini. And Sergeant Major
he's here. Oh, no, he's at Carson.
So Sergeant Major Mancini had an NCOPD one time, and he had all of us in there. And I don't remember if it was only the sergeants or was it like all the NCOs. But that was one of the things he talked about. He preached the importance of a leadership philosophy. And then he said, the next NCOPD, I'm going to call on you, and I want to know what your leadership philosophy is. And then we never had another NCOPD, or I left. I left to go to the academy. So, yes, I know kind of an idea, but so I think that sometimes, first of all, Tom said it perfect. I think a big piece of your leadership philosophy comes from your values, behaviors, beliefs, and the norms from your personal upbringing and then your military upbringing, right? Coupled with that experience. So, I mean, I remember seeing I've had some NCOs and I'm like, I will not do that to my soldiers. And that's part of developing that philosophy. Absolutely. Is I'm not going to be a screamer. Yeah. I've never been a screamer in all these years. And so some of that stuff and how you treat people, I think that's part of my philosophy is trying to, I really like to treat them more like they're not in a uniform unless they make me, you know what I mean? So I haven't written one, but I was just thinking I should sit down and write one. And it's crazy. Again, going back to my paper I wrote a paper on philosophy and leadership styles of these great leaders, but I've never wrote my own. And now I feel like I have failed.
Yeah. No. The thing is you probably lived your life a certain way, and you have, because of all those experiences. It's just you haven't written it down. That's all. I guess that's probably the reason why we've done this project for a while now, because I enjoyed doing these things, and that's exactly like where you're shaking your head like I don't have to be a screamer. I don't have to treat people bad. I can get people to do it through influence.
That's right.
And to get things done. So we talk about developing. You said using your morals, your ethics, your values. He used what we call VBBN. That was one of the things that we taught at the academy. So when I was just like, values, beliefs. What is it again?
Values, beliefs, behaviors, and norms.
Behaviors and norms. I couldn't get the behaviors part. Yeah. And so we taught that, and I was like, here he goes again. It's like he's back on the podium and he's teaching us in class. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
That definitely was in my paper too.
And throwing out acronyms, we got to throw out acronyms.
Oh, yeah. We try. So we try not to throw too many acronyms because we do have civilians who listen. He has family members that have gotten other friends that work with him, and then I know a few people that. And then I think a lot of our listeners are military individuals, but we're trying to relate to both. But with that being said, so we say we're developing, and my next piece of it was, spreading this, this philosophy that you've built. And obviously we're not trying to push something onto somebody, right? we're just trying to lead in a certain way. And then what I'm getting from it is, and I have one, I'm not saying, I'm trying to pose the question of how do I spread it to get the buy-in? Is that what we're looking for? We're looking for ownership or buy-in to the philosophy, or that they're going to develop their own? Or, I mean, what are you thinking when you are spreading your leadership philosophy?
So when I'm spreading my leadership philosophy, I want the soldier not necessarily to buy into it. I want them to understand what they should think is important to the command team, and the whole time I would share those beliefs. I would be in front of the formation and I would say, look, and I would deep dive my philosophy.
Right.
But what I'm trying to get out of it is for that young individual to start questioning what and where they came from, what's important to them, and what do I need to be doing to be successful in my career.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was trying to get at when I would spread the philosophy.
But what you're saying is it's constantly repeating the information so it becomes like ingrained.
Yeah, it's almost like second nature. I mean, so I had a really simple philosophy.
Tell us what it is. I know what it is. Let's tell everybody what it is.
All right. So I use acronym, but there's a little story to it. So as a young enlisted sergeant or NCO, sometimes, in the military, we promote individuals based off of potential. And you show the potential to be a leader. So they put some stripes on your chest and they say, hey, go be a leader. And that young soldier hasn't came up with a philosophy and doesn't have the experience needed, but they showed the potential. So I ask an individual, I say, what is it? What do you do if you take a whole bucket of paint and you throw it on the wall? What do you got? You got some abstract art going on, right? So that's how leadership is to me. So you take this individual off the street, you get him a little bit of training, and then we put some chevrons in his chest and we throw some paint on the wall, and it's this beautiful abstract painting. Right. So the acronym I came up with was the word ART, A-R-T.
So leadership is art. The leadership philosophy is art.
That's right.
So A-R-T stands for something.
It does, right? So the A stands for accountability. It's two-folded. You're accountable for your soldiers' actions, but most importantly, you're accountable for your own actions. So having that A right there, hey, the A, I'm accountable. The R stands for reporting. So if I have the ability to report and communicate, number one failure in the military, then if I can do that, I'll be successful.
Yeah.
And the last one was training and teamwork. So if I can train my squad and we can do it cohesively as a team, then I'll be successful at mentoring and guiding my soldiers to success.
Right.
So I would talk to the soldiers about that in formation and any other opportunity that I had with them. And I would just, not really troubleshoot them, but hey, what is the command team's philosophy? But before I would sit there and I would go and talk about it in front of all the soldiers, I had nested myself with the commander to ensure that we're talking the same thing.
Right.
Hey, sir, is accountability important to you? Is communication reporting important to you? Is training and teamwork important to you? Because if I'm saying something different, then we're gonna talk the wrong message.
Right. Absolutely.
So my philosophy, I try to keep it simple so that the junior soldier could remember it as well.
Yeah, and it may help influence them throughout and help them, gain whatever knowledge that is needed to become leaders. But art, so we're talking accountability, reporting, and training. To me, Ed, aren't those like the three basic things that we always had to do as non-commissioned officers?
Yeah, it is. I think art is clever too because it's an acronym, and we ingrain our soldiers' acronyms anyway. So It does. It's an easy kind of learning tool. Look how fast you just spit that out. I'm sure you've heard it a few times though, but I mean,
I've heard it a few times.
Yeah, you just threw it right out.
I've been living it since I was a young E5.
Yeah.
Now, and so the thing is it's kind of what helped me develop mine a little bit more in depth than what I had it before. It was just topics, but now it like mine's action. Like I took some of the things he did, and I'm not going to go in depth into mine. Maybe we'll talk about it when we do another show, because I really want to focus on what he had offered there. But to me, what it did was like, it could be as simple as a single word, and then you elaborate on those words. But it's developed through like our VBBN, or just how we were raised, or like how we feel life should be, but not mean. You know what I mean? Like their meaning behind it is to help others, become better, right? Because if you think about if I'm getting accountability, I'm helping others to make sure that they didn't take care of. If I'm reporting everything that needs to be done right, that's helping others. And then obviously training, like that's like one of our most primary things as non-commissioned officers. We are the SMEs for training soldiers. And when I say soldiers, that's all soldiers. But people don't realize is that's what the non-commissioned officer in the United States Army's job is to do, is to train all soldiers, officers and enlisted. You know, I mean, there's a reason why they put enlisted soldiers even at West Point to train officers too at the same time. So, but yeah, I mean, so we talked about developing, we talked about spreading, but how do we really, because the third thing that we wanted to hit upon was influence, because obviously Instinctive Influences is this show and we like to talk about influence. And we wrote some stuff on the board last night. You and I did. We talked about like ways to influence. What are some ways to influence that leadership philosophy, you think?
So that is going to be your number one challenge as a leader,
right?
Is getting soldiers to want to follow you, right? Mm-hmm. So we all have got to. You've got to show action, basically. So you've got to show them what right looks like. Right?
What do you got?
Oh my goodness! Are you kidding me?
What do you got written up there?
Look at that. It's like the newlywed game. We win.
Did you write that like while we were talking?
When he was talking, yeah, I was like, when we first started talking about spreading and how to spread.
That's ridiculous. I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Then I glance at Ed.
Yeah.
And like he's taking the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. So those of you who are listening and not watching, because you're not watching on YouTube, Ed's sitting there. He's holding up a little whiteboard that just says actions in big red letters. That's something else, man. It's funny because but that's if you think about it, that's how we've learned in the Army as being leaders and doing the things we've done. If you'd asked me that, if we like, you get goosebumps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. If you'd asked us that, like I was, I think it was 22, 23 when I became an NCO. You were 21. Ed, obviously you're a little bit older, so I may be a little bit different for you in that manner. But if you'd asked me that same question, I wouldn't be able to answer it back then. I wouldn't know how to answer. Like, how do I influence people with this leadership? I don't know. I just do my thing. I tell people what to do or something, you know? And to me, that's the wrong answer. And it took me a while to learn, right?
Right.
But you talked about actions, right?
Right.
So how do we influence others to kind of embrace this leadership philosophy?
Yeah. So you embrace it by living it yourself.
Living it. And that's the thing.
Right.
You know how many times I've heard, hey, you can't preach. You got to practice what you preach.
Right.
I've heard it so many times. You know, you'll see somebody stand there. Maybe they stand in front of a formation and they're saying X, Y, Z, but they're living ABC life, right? Versus you see somebody who's standing there, they're preaching ABC and they're living the ABC life. And you can always tell, right? I mean, you ever notice that, Ed? Like, you can always tell when somebody's actually living the life that they're preaching, or they're not preaching, but they're training the soldiers, the way they're mentoring them, things like that, man.
Yeah, and it's aggravating because then behind closed doors, that's not what they're not doing it. They're talking it, but they're not doing it. So it's funny too. So we're talking about like, about leading through your actions and stuff. So earlier this week, I was on LinkedIn and I saw this quote and I was like, I wonder how I could work this into the show. But it said, become the kind of leader.
You're just going to plug it.
Yeah, no, because it actually works out pretty good. Become the kind of leader that people would follow voluntarily, even if you had no title or position. And so I think that's your philosophy is that tool that will help you gain that, like to get there. You know what I mean? So I definitely was determined that was getting into the show this week.
Oh man, I like that.
I like it.
Yeah. Even if you didn't have a position, if you could get people to follow you no matter what, that to me, that's a lot of, in a sense, that's a lot of power. And I'm not saying being power hungry, but that's a level of influence that a lot of people want to reach, I think, because then you're actually making a change in somebody's life, and most likely for the good, right? They're going to follow somebody who they want to be like, things like that. We talked about, the influencing of the actual leadership philosophy. But I actually, if you remember last night, I wrote a little question, and you may have seen on there, is how do we really, let's boil this down. If we had the most junior guy in a formation listen to this podcast, which I do have a few soldiers, somehow they found out I had a podcast. I tried not to tell them about it, but the word spread, and some of the guys, even from my last formation, they listened to us. But let's take the most junior guy you could think of, right? That Private Snuffy. We like to use Private Snuffy a lot on here. What's the other one? McGillicuddy? What's the other one?
Schmuckatelli.
Schmuckatelli, yeah. We love Schmuckatelli. Yeah, of course, Schmuckatelli. But if that Joe wanted to start developing their leadership philosophy, what would be the most basic of advice you would want to give them to help starting to form their own leadership philosophy so they can become a better leader down the road?
So really, I would tell them to reflect back and look at their foundation, what is important to them, their values, beliefs, morals as they grew up.
Right.
We all grew up in different part of the United States. We have different cultures and backgrounds and things that are important to us.
Right.
I would give them that advice, to look at that and really study that and try to get the, that should be their foundation is that, and ask questions to themselves on self-reflection.
That's a tough one. That's why I asked it, because I was like, because you think about it, if you want to boil something down, because whenever you're trying to do things, you want to kind of get to the root of something. And to me, what you're saying is, what I'm getting from it is like, hey, just take what you know is right, and then build off of that. And I would add into it like, hey, how are you going to help somebody else? Because I said it before on the show before. I used to have, he actually was a sergeant major I worked for a little while back at Carson. He always said to our formation, we had a formation of 300-400 people. And he would say, hey, listen, if everybody in this formation did one good thing a day, that's 300 or 400 good things a day. Multiply that times, a year. That's a lot of good things. At the same time, it's like, so what's that one good thing that I'm going to do to help somebody else out? Not help myself, but help somebody else. And I think you could even base your leadership philosophy off that just a little bit. So take my beliefs, my values, beliefs, behaviors, and norms. See, I got it, bro. I got it. I remembered. Rick's going to be happy to know that we're talking about this. So,
yeah.
Which we haven't brought him up. I want to wait. I've got this little tool coming. I'm like a squirrel. I got this little tool coming that I'm gonna create some jingles where I can hit this button and you kind of just sit there and laugh at it instead. But I'm gonna create. What's that?
We're going to the next level.
Next level of podcasting. So we used to do this. So we haven't done it in a while, but we used to do a fake advertisement, and we're gonna create a new one. But I don't want to do it until I get this new equipment. So, but anyway, he definitely. Rick is one of those people, much like you, that has helped both of us create what we've actually, I would say almost say he's part of the birth child of this show, because we've talked and talked and talked. And what Ed and I did is we basically took all that stuff and we just kind of like bundled together and say, hey, here's a show that we wanted to start doing. Well, I would definitely say, Ed, before we close this out, because once again, you've allowed us to go over an hour, Ed. I can't believe this.
Am I the timekeeper too? Wait a minute.
You got to be doing something here. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. You missed the meetings last night, midnight. So before we close this out, we end the show. Ed, is there anything you want to ask or talk about in particular about this?
So I had a little input into the helping the young soldiers, and it goes to one of our messages that we always have on the show, Brian. I think we just need to convey if we can convey to them that successful leaders never stop learning. Look for those learning opportunities, and those learning opportunities will help develop who you're going to be as a leader. And it could be simple. I mean, honestly, Brian, every week we do this podcast, we learn something new. We've changed our leadership a little bit, just a little micro spec, but we've changed something prepping for these shows. And I think if we can get our young junior leaders and senior leaders, I mean, my captain and I have some pretty good conversations. I've learned some stuff from her, and she's learned from me. So those are things that we could do, is just make them understand it. You're never done. If you're stopped learning, it's time for some serious self-reflection. If you think you've got nothing left to learn as a leader, self-reflection. Yeah. But that learning is what's going to drive who you become and how you get to be a retired sergeant major, how you get to be a sergeant major getting ready to start the academy or master sergeant, how you get to be retiring in 3 years. That's how you get there. All right, is that learning process. So that would be my big message to a junior soldier.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point to kind of like add things off or kind of level it off. So with that, I don't really have much more to ask of you, Tom. I thought it was we're really thankful that you're here. And we, one of the other things is to say thank you for your service. It's crazy too, because he made this trip down here, Ed. And I was like, well, he's coming down here. We should have done this when I lived right next door of him. He drove all the way. He drove all the way from Carson, 600 miles to do an interview. Can you believe that, Ed?
Yeah,
I know they were generous.
No, they came down and they visited with us, stayed with us a little bit, and it was great because it's like their kids are about the same age as our kids, so it's been an amazing relationship. And the sad thing is I wish we could get the whole McMahon crew, but the problem is I don't have a button I can push to bleep people when they're talking sometimes.
Oh yeah,
because you get us all together and it's, oh my goodness, it's crazy.
pretty cool.
It can get pretty. I'm not. It's just fun. It's fun. Ed, we're gonna end this off, man. But I mean, obviously we've been talking about all this stuff, but how can more people learn about us or get to know us, man?
Well, they can check us out on social media, Brian, at 101 Influence on your Facebook, on the Gram, the Instagram. You can also find Brian and myself on Twitter. And then you can go to the Instinctive Influencers website, meet the faces and see the places.
There's not a lot of places they're going to see. No. What about that YouTube thing? Is that something new about YouTube?
That's why I forgot to say it. Oh, man. We're still figuring out the video piece, but we will get it down, and you can check us out on YouTube, watch the show, and then you can see some of the interactions. You could have seen my sign today. I mean, if you were on YouTube. So it would work out. And then also one other thing, today we're recording this, Brian, and so I take the opportunity to wish you gentlemen a happy Father's Day.
I told you would do it.
I wore this shirt just for you, Brian. So
stronger than your dad. What's it say? Prettier than your mom.
I wore that just for you for Father's Day.
Thank you, buddy.
Happy Father's Day to you, gentlemen.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you too, brother. Yeah, heck yeah. And happy Father's Day to a lot of the guys out there that are listening, or soon to be dads. That'd be cool. Yeah. Man, hey, so I was going to jump back to it. When you grabbed the whiteboard, I didn't see you grab it. I thought you grabbed a sword or something, because I know you got like a bunch of swords and axes, and like it's like his own like melee militia over there in Germany. But there we go. Got another sword there. Got one behind him. I thought that's what he grabbed. And I was like, what is he gonna do now? What kind of prop is he gonna throw?
That was Legos.
Oh. Drop the whole thing of Legos.
My PTSD medication.
Yeah, no, and that's what I love about we're doing the video now is the video is allowing us to we get to include props now. Like I like to bring out the old Krekel cup. This is the academy that we worked
just because
at.
I didn't get one.
Obviously, you can see the Batman. We got Batman. We love our Batman. So we got a Batman cup. Yeah, you didn't get one. So that's the kind of the cool thing about with the video. For those of you who are watching us, hey, hit this as a subscribe button up there. Just hit subscribe, and then you'll be able to know when a new video comes out. Also, hey, give us a thumbs up because that kind of helps us. That helps open up for other people to see us. Remember, I mean, it's not like we're getting anything for this other than we're learning something new together, which I think that's probably one of the best things that we have of it. And we're sharing information. And that's what's the great thing about it. This is a completely free show. It's not like there's not ads and stuff. We may have some ads and you hear about certain types of things that we make up, but it's more for laughter than anything.
Yeah.
So, hey, like and subscribe, all those different things. Hit the thumbs up. Ed, what do you got? Anything left before we close out the show, buddy?
No, I also want to thank you because we recorded late enough in the day. I don't have to cook dinner. My wife's cooking dinner. That's another win.
So what you're saying is this is the time that we need to record every Sunday.
Yeah. Another win.
What's she making, buddy?
Check. She's doing quesadillas tonight.
Quesadillas. Is Sarah coming over to eat with you guys?
Sarah's probably passed out. She flew from the States yesterday, and she's probably
man.
No, next weekend. Actually, Friday night we're going to Trier for adult beverages on the patio and dinner. It's like an old Roman city. Trier? They got an old Trier. They got a Roman gate there, and it's real nice. About an hour from here. Real nice city.
Oh, no way.
Town square. Yeah. Tom, I'll have to tell you about the town squares here is something that's in the States. Yeah. You just the old towns and sit there and people watch and have a beverage.
Hey, no, it's funny because we were downstairs yesterday and we were talking about flea markets or swap meets here, and we want to try to go find some and stuff like that. We've tried to cram so much into, but I've also found us just sitting on the couch watching like TV too.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, we could be out doing stuff, but the air conditioning. I'd rather have this air conditioning.
Yeah, it's too hot to want to do something.
It's hot. Yeah, no, it's blazing here.
We're cooking breakfast outside on the concrete today.
Yeah. Eggs. Yeah, you pick your own rocks out though. So, all right. So, hey, we're gonna close. We're gonna wrap this up, man. Thank you very much for listening, Ed. Thanks for getting in on here and knocking this out. With that, I am Brian,
and I am Ed,
and this has been the Instinctive Influencers Podcast. So, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. All right.
Be great.
Be great. Be a legend.